Hi, and welcome to our What Sold video for May 19th through 25th. I'm Wendy.
I'm Cevin.
And together we are Nina's Jewels. We are going to talk about several things today. We're going to talk about an unauthorized sales notice.
Oh no!
Actually two that we got from a particular brand, which we will reveal later in the video. And we're going to go over all of our sales from the week of May 19th through 25th. On multiple different platforms. So let's dive right in. If you're new here, we will show some disclosures on the screen, so you can pause it if you want to read those. We'll show those right now. And we're back. All right, the first thing that we sold was a Ralph Lauren women's 100% silk peasant blouse that we got at the thrift store for $1.88. It sold for $21 on eBay. And most of our sales are on eBay. If I don't mention the platform, you can know that it sold on eBay. Next up was another Ralph Lauren item. This was a two-piece women's nightgown. I billed it as a wedding night item. It was new with tags. It was a very fancy, another 100%
really
silk
nice.
Item.
Yeah.
Two back-to-back 100% silk Ralph Lauren items.
We're always going to pick those up at a
Yeah,
garage sale.
For sure. We got this for $2 at a garage sale. Kevin bought this when he was alone, so I'm sure they were wondering why he was buying that. But he bought that for $2 and it sold for full price of $74.99. So some good profit on that one.
That's a good sale.
Next up was a hardcover book from 1943 called The Home Medical Book by Royal S. Copeland. That's a fancy name.
Regal.
Yeah.
One might say.
Yes. We found this in a storage unit for just 28 cents and it sold for $16 even. Next up was an infant 6 to 9 months Puma one-piece bodysuit. Just a quick note on selling infant one-piece items. You cannot use the word onesie unless it is an actual branded Gerber onesie item. Gerber actually owns the copyright for the word onesie.
So it's like the Velcro hook and loop thing.
Exactly. So don't use the word onesie in your title or in your listing in any way unless it is actually a Gerber onesie. That is a copyrighted word. So,
discerning babies. Yeah.
It's true. That's true. So this we also got out of actually the same storage unit that the Home Medical Book came out of. We paid just 28 cents for this onesie. Oh, I said it. 28 cents for this bodysuit.
For this one-piece romper?
Yes. And it sold for $9.58. Next up was a cassette from 1998. It was Super Hits by Blue Oyster Cult. And we got that at a thrift store for 13 cents. It sold for $15 even.
Nice.
Kind of have more cowbell.
Guess what? I got a fever. And the only prescription is more cowbell.
Oh, well.
Every time I try to do Christopher Walken, it slips into John Travolta.
Yeah,
so sorry about
I can't
that.
do any impressions, so I'm not even going to try. All right, next up was a set of two vintage mid-century modern small brass swan planters. We got these at an estate sale for $10 and they sold for $40 even. Next up was a genuine Coach brown signature logo handbag and it was in really good condition. This was gifted to us to sell. We had no cost and it sold for $83 on Poshmark. That was a good one.
That was a good one.
Good Poshmark sale. Next up was a Bell & Howell top grain cowhide leather. It actually said those words on the tag.
It did.
And it was an 8mm camera case. It did have some flaws on it, which we disclosed. We found this in the Goodwill bins for 45 cents and it sold for $19.99. Next up was a pair of Gap women's chambray denim pleated sailor shorts. These were Nina's, and so they were actually handed down to her. We had no cost, and those sold for $15 even on Mercari. Next up was a pair of Okabashi sandals. Okobashi is kind of like a croc type sandal. They're all that rubber material, or most of them are. And they're kind of like comfort style sandals. They do not sell nearly as for nearly as high of a price as Crocs, or nearly as quickly as Crocs. But they will sell.
Crocs weigh nothing.
Yeah.
These things were heavy.
Yeah.
Heavy sandals.
But they will sell.
Yeah.
These were women's size 8 to 9 sea glass aqua, like the actual brand color was called sea glass. They were flip-flops. We got those at a garage sale for $4. They did take a while to sell. They sold for $15.98.
Yeah, we made very little.
So not tons of profit on those. The men's Okobashis, I do think, do better. Next up was a King James version of a Holy Bible. This one was a Gideon's, and it says Crystallite. Do you remember? Was that like the color or something?
It was it looked almost like a couch pattern. It was it was vintagey, and it had like a gold pattern in the cover.
I know which one.
The cover of the thing. I got that at the thrift store.
It says rare and hard to find, so.
I just picked it up because it looked really cool and vintage.
Yeah. So we got that at the thrift store for $1.35, and it sold for $24.99. Next up was a 2-disc set DVD of Jane Eyre Masterpiece Theater. This was gifted to us. We had no cost. It sold for $14.38, and it sold really fast. Next up was one of those cassette adapters that will make your car radio into a CD player, or I guess it could be used for anything.
It'll be whatever. It's just it takes your cassette player and puts it into an aux cord.
Yeah.
So you can plug whatever you want into the aux.
What he said.
MP3 player, CD player.
Yeah. This one was branded
boombox.
RCA.
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Whatever. It doesn't matter.
You want to run a boombox in your car, driving along like this. So that we got at an estate sale. It was in a big box of like random car equipment. We paid 75 cents for it. It sold for $10.99. Next up was a vintage Eubank Uniframe. It was some kind of adjustable picture frame system. I don't really remember exactly what it did or how it worked, but it was new in the box. This was old stock from another business that we own, which is a custom picture frame shop.
I found it in the cabinet on the top shelf, shoved in the back.
Yeah, like really old
I was
stock.
like, what is this? We can sell this.
So we had no cost because that was probably from like 30 years ago or something crazy.
Least.
Yeah. And that sold for $34.99.
And if you're looking for more, we have
We
two
do
more.
have 2 more, yeah. Next up was a 2007 Mattel Barbie Totally Hair Braided replacement pink satin
Totally
top. That was gifted to us. That was in the Barbie bag. We had no cost, and it sold for $12.25. Next up was one of Kevin's Don Russ 1992 baseball cards for David Wayne Nilsson.
No relation to Harry Nilsson.
No relation. That sold.
Well, I say that.
You don't know. You actually don't know.
I really don't know, but I don't think so.
That sold for $2.29. Next up was a lot of 5 koozies, and they were all new with tags. We got most of them in the Goodwill bins, but they actually came from multiple different places. We lotted them all together. Our all-in cost on those was a whopping $5.35.
I don't see how that's possible.
Yeah, I don't either. And they only sold for $4 on Poshmark, so we lost actually quite a bit of money on this. We probably should have just taken them out and put them in the garage sale.
We definitely should have.
Yeah, you live, you learn. Next up was a vintage Ted Heath and his music, the big band Dixie Sound record. This we got at the thrift store for $1.08, and it sold for $18.99.
I don't know why I picked that up.
Yeah.
Because that's not something that would really normally sell, and I would never pick that up. There must have been a reason. Maybe I looked it up at the store, which I don't normally do.
Yeah.
But that's a very odd thing for me to pick up at the thrift store.
It is a weird one. I was surprised to see that it was a thrift item.
Very odd.
Yeah.
Normally at the thrift store, if it's a record, I'll only pick up like a band that I know, like an 80s band or a modern band or a sound effects record. Sound effects records like Halloween, Trucker Sounds, like things like that sell pretty well. But this?
Yeah, it's a weird one.
No clue.
Next up was a 2011 Topps Star Wars Dog Tags and Trading Card Mystery Blind Bag. It was new and sealed. We found this in the bins for $1.03 and it sold for $10.38. Next up was a Laney Extreme LX12 guitar amp. We tested it and it worked, and we got that at a garage sale for $5 and it sold for $99.98. That was a good one.
Yeah.
High five on that. Next, I'd like to take a moment to ask you to subscribe to our channel if you're not subscribed already. It's the #1 thing that you can do to support us, and we would really, really appreciate it. Just hop on down there, hit that subscribe button. It only takes like 2 or 3 seconds. We would really appreciate it. While you're at it, please hit that like button. It really helps YouTube know that this is a video that you enjoy and that other people might enjoy. And after you finish this video, maybe go and share it with someone who you think might enjoy reseller content or just awesome content.
Oh.
Ooh, that's a bold statement.
It's very bold.
All right, let's move on. So the next item up was a women's Docker collection plus size red plaid flat front Bermuda shorts. These were gifted to us. We had no cost and they sold for $12.99. Next up was a really cute hot pink neon rainbow hand puppet.
That was a cute puppet.
Yeah, it was. I actually could not. I did Google Lens search. I searched for it with keywords on both Google and eBay and other platforms, and I couldn't find anything like it. So I don't know. I just kind of priced it at what I thought somebody would pay, and it sold pretty fast.
And it had damage on
the nose was like ripped off. I think it was supposed to have like a pom-pom style nose maybe, and it was ripped off and there was just kind of a tuft there. We had gotten that at a garage sale for 50 cents. It sold really fast for $19.98. Next up was 2 Upper Deck Fun Pack baseball cards, both for Nolan Ryan, right?
Nolan
Ryan. And those were Kevin's. Those sold for a total of $5.02. Next up was 7 pieces, I guess, of gold, metallic, and blue taffeta miniature roses. They were like crafting roses. These we got out of a big bin of a whole bunch of new in package and used crafting supplies. I think we paid like $1 for the whole bin, and we made lots of money on that one little purchase, but some of the stuff has taken a really long time to sell. These we paid just 12 cents for. They sold for $7.73. Next up was a Polo Ralph Lauren infant boys 3 months navy hooded down-filled puffer jacket. It was in excellent condition. I mean, infants don't wear things for very long, and usually they're in good condition unless they've been, passed through a lot of kids. This we got at the thrift store for $1.25. Back when the thrift store was doing cheaper pricing.
Back when you could get things at the thrift store for $1.25.
It did take
now that thing would be $15 at the thrift store.
Totally, it totally would. And it did take a really long time to sell, but I recently cross-listed it to Citizen using List Perfectly, and as soon as I cross-listed it to Citizen, it sold. So List Perfectly has paid for itself over and over again for us. So if that is something you're interested in checking out, we do have a code down below. You can get 30% off of your first month to try out List Perfectly. So I would recommend that you try it out if you're interested in listing on other platforms and see if it works for you. All right, next up is a lot of 3 Greenbrier patriotic plastic table covers. Somebody bought these right in time for Memorial Day. We found these in the Goodwill bins. They were new in the package. We paid just 67 cents for those, and they sold for $11. Next up was one of my old shirts that I didn't wear anymore. This was a St. John's Bay women's petite small red and blue embroidery peasant shirt. Somebody was probably buying that for Memorial Day too. And I had gotten this a long time ago. I don't even know how much I paid for it. So I have $0.
You wore it for many times.
I did. Yeah, I have $0 on our spreadsheet, but it sold for $13.58. Next up was a pair of Southern Marsh women's gray and neon pink Turner Stripe Brighton shorts. They were new at the tag. They reminded us of Vineyard Vines. They had a very Vineyard Vines type look to them. Those we got for $5 at a garage sale, and they sold for $27 on Mercari. Next up was a Nike Dry Fit men's spell out purple and aqua graphic silky t-shirt. We got this at a garage sale for $2 and it sold for $8 on Poshmark. Next up was the item that we got the unauthorized sales notice, actually 2 unauthorized sales notices on. This was a pair of Ariat work men's flame-resistant denim jeans. They were new at the tags. We got these at a Goodwill in Galveston, Texas when we were on vacation. We paid $7.15 for these, and we ultimately sold them for $59.99. Now, I actually think we could have gotten significantly more had we waited a little while for the right buyer to come along, but I will tell you the story of what happened. I've been waiting to tell you guys this until we actually sold these. So we received an email in our own personal email box, not through eBay messages or anything like that. We got an email and the title of the email said unauthorized seller notice, and it was from Ariat.com. I mean, it was from like a compliance email address from Ariat.com. And it basically said that we were not authorized sellers of Ariat, and we had not entered in, because we had not entered into an agreement to sell Ariat items, they wanted us to remove any mention of Ariat in the title, in the description, any stock photos that we had of the item, but any mention of the word Ariat, which means that we would have had to have removed the word Ariat from the title and from the description. We would have had to have listed them as men's work, flame-resistant work jeans. You could have maybe said like name brand men's flame-resistant work jeans, but you couldn't have used the word Ariat if we were gonna like do what they suggested. And mind you, this came directly to my email, and in the email was actually a cut and paste, it looked like to me, from an Excel type spreadsheet that they had listed the date of when they pulled the information from our listing, the time, the category, the UPC of the item, and where it was listed, which was eBay for us.
I'm sure they just had a bot skimming the site.
Probably. And I looked at this when I first got it. I was questioning, like, you know, is this actually from Ariat? What is this? Why didn't this come through my eBay messages? And then I'm like, you know, if you want to address this, they needed to go through eBay. Like, if you're coming directly to me, then I'm not going to do anything about it. I felt like they didn't really have any pull to ask us to.
Well, I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, yes,
it was
new at tags, but we bought it in a thrift store. Right. It's a second-hand item. Right. We're not purporting ourselves to be an Ariat authorized dealer.
We are not like a retailer that sells Ariat and are trying to, you know, like have a Western store or something like that, or trying to sell like work gear in like a retail outlet or something like
Western
that.
wear.
Even so, I mean, I just felt like they had no leg to stand on here. And the first sale doctrine, I felt, also protected us because we went and legally purchased these jeans at a thrift store and we owned them outright. We did not come to own them through any nefarious means. And so I felt...
Yeah, if they're coming after us, they should go after Goodwill. That's where we got them.
Exactly. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to leave them listed. But I did decide to lower the price. I think we initially had them listed at like $99.99, which was actually a little bit high, but ours were new with tags. And so I did go in and I lowered the price, and they still didn't sell. A few months later, actually, I got another unauthorized sales notice directly to my personal email from Ariat saying all the same stuff again. You can't list it. It had just like an updated date and time for when they pulled the information out. And we didn't have any stock photos. I did have the name Ariat clearly in the title, obviously, for obvious reasons. And I was still like, you know, I'm not going to take this down. Like, unless you send me some kind of like legal cease and desist, and even then, I still don't think that they had any legal leg to stand on. I'm not going to take the item down. But I did decide to just steadily lower the price on the item until it sold, and we would still make a good profit because I just didn't want to really mess with it if they did decide to pursue something. But let me know your thoughts on that. And have you had anything like this happen? I do think that this kind of contact is a direct result of our information now being made available to anybody who wants it. And I think that's through the Informed Consumer Act, if I'm stating that correctly. Let me know if I'm wrong about that, but that Informed Consumer Act passed, and now anybody who wants to get information about sellers on eBay can acquire that. And that's how they acquired our email address and reached out to us over this. I don't think this would have happened in the past. Do you have any thoughts?
No, I just think it was silly, and they had no meat on that bone.
No.
Like, what are they really going to do to us? It's one singular pair of jeans. One area item total in our store. In our entire store. Yeah,
yeah.
One thing.
Yeah.
They're not going to waste any time coming after us for that one item. So we just got rid of it. Made pretty good money, and
yeah.
I don't know if I guess we'd still pick up if we saw new with tags area stuff again, because again,
I still don't think they have any legal leg to stand on.
Had they come at us through eBay, it would have been different.
Right.
But coming at us in our email, that's just spam.
Even still, I don't think they have any right to say you can't sell our items through a secondhand market.
We weren't falsely representing it in any way.
No, we were not.
We were like, here is this pair of jeans. It is Ariat.
Yes.
The end.
Exactly. So moving on, now that we've addressed that.
Crazy.
The next item that we sold was a lot of 5 religious, devotional, spiritual, worship, self-help books. We got all of these out of a recent storage unit that we purchased, and we were all in on these for $1.16. They sold in a lot for only $10, but we still made a little bit of money on that.
And we kept them out of the landfill.
Exactly.
Or recycle bin, in this case.
Exactly. Next up was a lot of 11 romance and romantic comedy movies on DVD. A lot of them were new and sealed. We got most of those out of the Goodwill bins. We were all in for $7.07, and those sold for $19.99.
I think that 707's high, too.
Yeah, probably, but still. We still
Spreadsheet math.
Yeah. Still made profit on them. Next up was a triple matted and framed birdhouse cross-stitch needlepoint. The frame did have some damage, so we disclosed that. This was actually a needlepoint that I did many, many years ago, and our business framed, and it hung in our family home for a long time. And that sold for $22. Now you can see my skills right over there. Next up was a vintage West German green and ivory 4 Castles 3D coffee mug. It was like a mini Stein. And it says read in the title, so it must have had an issue.
I think it had a chip or something.
Yeah.
It was a cool mug, though.
It was. We got that at the thrift store for 70 cents, and it sold for $21.99. Next up was a lot of 3 men's No Boundaries cargo shorts. They came in several different colors and styles. These were gifted to us. We had no cost, and they sold for $37.99. Next up was a box of hair dye. It was a box that I purchased for myself a long time ago, and then I never used. I don't dye my hair anymore, so I decided to sell it. This was a L'Oreal Paris Superior Preference Fade Defying Hair Color in the color Light Amber Brown. And I don't know how much I paid for this. It was a long time ago, but it sold for $14.99. Next up was the 3M Gel Wrist Rest for the keyboard and mouse. And it was new in the box. We had gotten this at the Goodwill bins. We actually had this in a video, and I'll link that video down below for you guys to check out if you did not see it. And we also showed ourselves listing this item in a listing video. So I will link that video down below as well.
That was a really quick list.
Exactly. So you guys can see kind of the entire progression of when we picked that item up when we listed it and now when we sold it. So you can see the full life cycle of this item in our videos. That we paid 45 cents for, and it sold for $32.99. Next up was a Davidson's Kid CAD 3D software from 1994. It was a teaching tool Windows CD-ROM. This we got at the Goodwill bins.
Same trip.
Yeah, from the wrist rest. And we paid 45 cents for it, and it also sold for $32.99.
But you see, we made $3 more on that because the $3 on the other one, on the wrist keyboard thing, was beyond the post office 22-inch.
It was a long item.
It was long, so we had to pay the, I say penalty, service fee, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's a penalty.
I call it a penalty.
It is. Okay, next up was a My Hero Academia World Heroes Mission, the movie manga comic book. It was the US version. We got this at the thrift store for 51 cents, and it sold for $7.98. This one was kind of a mass-produced one, so it didn't sell for as much. Next up was a 1995 Pinnacle Game Breakers Steve Young card. This was Cevin's, and it sold for $3.59. Next up was a huge 119-piece lot of preschool and pretend play food. We had plastic stuff, wood stuff, the condition varied, but it was a lot of stuff. We found the majority of these in the Goodwill bins, but some of them came from
toy bags.
Some of them came from friends and family. We got them from a lot of different places. And we were all in for $1.03. They sold for $30 even. And last up was a 1994 Marvel Masterpieces Mephisto card.
Mephisto card.
That was Cevin's also, and it sold for $2.06. And that wraps up all of our sales. Let's go over the totals. All right, our total sales were 42 items for an average sale price of $23.14.
Pretty good.
Our sales totaled $972.02. for a net profit of $539.72.
That's good.
So not bad at all.
No, I mean, considering how this year has been, for the most part, that's a good week.
Yeah.
Anything over 5 is a good week now.
That's true. Yeah.
So
it has been.
I would prefer it up like near 1,000, but
because we were having a 3-month average on eBay for a very long time of 15,000, and it for a while actually dipped below.
For a long time it was at 15 or better.
And in the last couple of weeks it dipped below 13,000.
Yeah, it hasn't been like that in like 2 years or something.
It's been painful.
It's a long time.
But we have picked up on other platforms.
We've also had a lot going on this year, so I don't know how much is. I mean, a lot of it's just eBay is definitely down.
Yeah,
it just is.
Yeah, but
a lot of it's also our life has really messed with our listing and our timing and so I don't know.
Yeah, but we're happy with this.
Yeah,
we are happy.
I'll take it.
All right, well that wraps up our video. We really appreciate you guys joining us and sticking with us until the end. If you haven't subscribed already and you've made it this far, I think you owe us a subscribe.
Nobody owes us anything.
We would appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button. We would appreciate that. We would also appreciate a thumbs up. So thanks again for joining, and we will catch you guys
on the flip side.
Oh, that was much better this time. All right, good job. High five. Oh.